we need to renationalise. Look what's happened. Look at the mess we're all in.
All these energy bosses all creaming it off, and the poor have to pay. There is something fundamentally flawed in what we're doing.
I didn't take the job on to starve children. I'm sorry, it's just...
Eddie, why are we here today?
Well, we're here today because enough is enough. It's a new campaign that's grown to over 500,000 people in a few short weeks. It's called a meeting to try and gather people in Manchester around the issues that people in the country are facing. And they're the same in Manchester as they are in London. And that's wages have been falling for 30 years. Profits are going through the roof, prices are going through the roof, and people have had enough of it, and we need to see something done about it.
I'm a dinner lady in Lancashire, and just before the summer holidays, when the cost of living crisis really started kicking off, I've just noticed I spend as much time taking food away from children as I do serving it. And to be honest, it's not what I took the job for. You know, I never dreamt that I'd be having to tell children, you can't have that, you've no money on your account.
The carers are really suffering, and also they're paying quite a lot for their care. So a lot of people are saying we can't afford to pay for our care now because we need to pay for heating. So a lot of elderly people who are saying we're not going to have the heating on, they will die, and they will die quickly.
Liz Truss and the other fella, Sunak, no chance. Where have they been? Where have they been while the country's in crisis?
They've been resting.
I'm ashamed. And I'm really trying hard not to swear. It makes me ashamed that, you know, they haven't mentioned all the things that are affecting people at the moment, and they're not interested. So you've got a Prime Minister who's on holiday and two people who are fighting each other, and neither of them are any good. And neither of them will look after our interests. So the sooner they go, the better. And like this meeting says, enough is enough.
I think it's time that people stood up and started to say what they really think about this government, which is dire. I've been on this planet quite a long time, and it is the worst I've ever known. And at the recent events, when they all bugger off on holiday and leave the country when it's absolutely heading for crisis after crisis after, not just one thing, NHS, really struggling, massive problems there. All the cost of living stuff coming on, and of course the energy stuff as well. All these energy bosses all creaming it off, and the poor have to pay. There is something fundamentally flawed in what we're doing. So we need it's not a revolution, it's a reset of how we do things in this country. At the moment it stinks, and unfortunately Starmer is part of the stink as far as I'm concerned. He is not as bad as Johnson, but he's in the same league. You know, he made those 10 pledges to get elected as a Labour leader, and he's broken every one of them.
When I first started a year ago, okay, once a month, there might, you know, parents forget to put money on at the beginning of the month, and you get that. But now you're talking 10 to 15 children a shift every day, every single day, and I'm saying you can't have that. There's no money, you know. And it's breaking my heart. You know, you see them, they're in a queue full of all their peers and other school children, and it's humiliating for them. It's so humiliating. They just look at you like, well, what am I going to eat? And it's like, I can't give you anything. I'm sorry, you know. And I'm just dreading going back to work. I'm dreading October. And to be honest, it's getting to the point where I'm just like, I don't even think I can do this job anymore. I didn't take the job on to starve children. I'm sorry, it's just... You know, it's just something has to give, and I just don't think it should be children's spirits. You know, I'm sorry,
I'm so sorry. What do you do? Are there free school meals? Like what?
There is, but the thing is, the criteria hasn't met up with the threshold criteria hasn't met with the crisis we're in. So the threshold before didn't take into account that there are people who are now being affected with the energy prices, fuel prices. So on paper, yes, it looks like they can afford school meals, but when you take into account the money they're paying on fuel, the money they're paying on energy bills, they don't have that money to stretch to the school meals. You know, you're talking £50 a month, and if you've got more than one child, that adds up. Each month you've got to find that dinner money.
What do you think happened over summer?
Well, obviously, it's been the summer holiday, so I've not had to work, but going back now, in September, it's not going to improve, is it? It's going to be even worse.
You know, after the demise of the movement around Corbyn, it's good to see pretty much the same people out again. The crunch is what we're going to ask them to do, though. And that was the problem before. I mean, we got this number of people 5-6 years ago to a meeting here. And the problem is you don't see most of them again. Well, this has either got to go to the communities, you know, to the localities, to the workplaces, union branches, or it dissipates. It's a bit like steam, isn't it? You know, steam comes out of a kettle, it's useless. But put a piston on it, you make things work. Well, that's what we got to do with this.
Feed the needy, not the greedy.
And what do you mean by that?
I think it's time the billionaires were reined in. It is outrageous that their money just goes up and up through all the pandemic. They're still making loads and loads, and everybody else is struggling. You know, we've been since 2010. We've been basically stagnant, doing nothing, and now, of course, everything's going up, and the poor buggers aren't going to cope. You know, it's a real crisis, this, and it's a bad thing for the country as a whole as well, in that you've got this massive split now between those who are okay, and then those who are okay but prepared and very concerned about the others, and then there's those who are not okay and are a real mess, and that bothers me a lot. I can manage, I think, but the fact that loads of people can't, it upsets me. It's a wrong sort of society. I wasn't brought up like this.
It's not a lot to ask, is it? Decent wages, decent lives in the fifth richest country in the world.
What do you think that it's looking like for your grandchildren?
It's looking dire, much worse than it was for my children or for me. I'm 70 in October. And there was more hope and promise in the world when I was growing up than there is for them.
What do you think changed?
I think everything was privatised. They'll be going to academies, not real education places. The NHS is dying on its knees, and it's privatisation, capitalism, you know, yeah. Hey.
We spoke to a woman earlier who was a dinner lady, and she said that she is not able to give children dinners anymore because they don't have any money on their cards. What do you think about that?
I worked in education, and better schools and better head teachers used to I don't know enough about that now, but that sounds tragic. That shouldn't be, should it? It really shouldn't be. Children should all get a meal at lunchtime, end of. Yeah.
Why do you think so many people have turned up?
Because everyone's feeling the pinch. I mean, everybody in this country knows. They don't need anyone clever to point out what's wrong in the economy right now. People know that they're being taken for a ride. We've never had more billionaires than we've currently got. We've never seen profits at the scale we're seeing profits. We've never seen the rich as rich as they are now. And at the same time, we've got people working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and they're in poverty. We've got people working in our health service, in our fire service, in our postal service, using food banks. We've got old people, don't know if they're going to be able to keep warm this winter. And we've got children, we don't know if we can keep fed and get them educated. And that is a scandal in the sixth richest economy on the planet. I think people are fed up. And it's about time we've seen some change. And if the politicians aren't going to come up with the answers, then we're going to drive them into it through people power and through organisation.